Hey everyone, welcome to another 10-minute Marvel video. I'm Petter, and well, today Greg and I say today, this week, Greg and I are putting out videos on who we'd like to see Henry Cavill play in the MCU. Each of us is doing our own list, however many that might be, and I came up with a list of 5 characters I'd love to see Henry Cavill playing in the MCU. A lot of them are kind of the normal ones on the list, but let's dive in and see. So, my number 5 is going to be Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister. I think Cavill could do very well in a villainous role. Nathaniel Essex is a good X-Men villain. Now, with the conversation of this casting happening now, are they going to cast an X-Men villain, maybe not the main X-Men villain right away? I think that they could. I think that Nathaniel Essex, Mr. Sinister, would be a fun villain for them to play around with, somebody who is very interested in the science of it all. But that one is low on my list. The next one up, my number 4, is going to be Captain Britain. Captain Britain, he's a fun enough hero in Marvel Comics, but and one that's a little bit more complex at times. That said, it's a smaller, lesser known character, and if Marvel is looking to bring in Henry Cavill, I suspect that they may want something a little bit bigger or a little bit longer, which, in all fairness, I don't think Mr. Sinister or Captain Britain really fit that. I think my top 3 definitely fall more into that. Now, I say this, and I'm going to caveat it with, what does Henry Cavill want? Does he want to be part of a franchise, like a superhero franchise, like he never was with DC? If he is interested in that, then I think some of these upcoming characters would work better. If he is not, well, then a one-off or two-off of Mr. Sinister or Captain Britain just showing up at times, I think that could work quite well. So my number 3 is going to be Wolverine. Hugh Jackman, I can say, I think with utmost confidence, is not going to be the Wolverine of the MCU. He doesn't want to do it. It's a lot of work to get into shape. A fair number of the actors, or at least some, like Drax, Dave Bautista, talk about how much work it is. And Hugh Jackman as Wolverine is definitely a lot of work to stay in that shape for that character, or to get into that shape every time you have to play that character. So I can't imagine that he'd want to do it long term. So who's somebody who's not too young? You don't want Wolverine to be a really young actor necessarily. So who's somebody who's a little bit older, but not that old, who has a fairly big build to him already for a number of the roles that he's played? Even just naturally, he has a fairly broad look to him. Henry Cavill would be a very solid choice, I think, for the MCU's Wolverine. But that's not my top option. That's not even my second option. My second option is going to be Scott Summers, Cyclops. That's my number 2 on the list, above Wolverine. Why? Because people are going to love Wolverine unless it's a horrible version of Wolverine. Because people already love Wolverine. They know that character. But what people don't love, who people don't love, is Cyclops. Cyclops is kind of a character where a lot of people are like, I'm not sold on this character. Kind of a dud in the original Fox X-Men 3 movies. He doesn't even make it the whole way through, if I remember correctly. It's been so long since I watched them. Actually, yeah, I do remember correctly, he doesn't. Give somebody with big acting chops a shot at that role. Henry Cavill has the personality to be able to take a character that, like, I like uh, Cyclops in the comics. I think Cyclops in the comics is a really cool character, and it allows you to develop a leader more so outside of Professor X. Professor X is kind of the man in the chair, all jokes intended. But Cyclops is the person who leads the X-Men. And Cyclops, having somebody who can stand up to a Charles Xavier, I think would be really cool to see. And not somebody who's just a wild card like Wolverine is, but somebody who has very strong convictions about mutants. My number one is going to be a villain again, so bookend it with villains. But yeah, I mean, I'm going to say my top two are really close. Really, my top three are really close. All of them I think he would do a great job as. But my number one is going to be Doctor Doom. Why? Because I think Cavill could pull it off really well. And it, I think when you're a villain, and especially a villain who should be around for a while, you want somebody who can do that. I think Cavill, good age for that sort of role. But also, while it is going to be a longer term role, he's not going to be the villain of every movie. He's not going to be like, if he's Wolverine or Cyclops, he's potentially having to show up in 4-5 movies over the next, well, over phases 7 and 8 of the MCU. Maybe more. Like, he might be in 10 movies in the span of 4 years, 5 years within the MCU. But if he's Doom, he's able to take a back seat at times. He's not the villain to everybody. But I think you do a really good job as the villain. And I think, like, it's a chance to cast him in that role now, pre-Secret Wars, give him his big villainous moment in Secret Wars, then take him back to Earth, take him back to Latveria, take him back to being a Fantastic Four villain, and have him face off against the Fantastic Four, have him be kind of that leader of Latveria, have him messing with the world, I think could work really well. And so you go from God Doom, you go from this super overpowered Doom down to an Earth Doom, back to a rising up of Doom as eventually he becomes this big Fantastic Four villain again. But let me know your thoughts. Who do you want Henry Cavill to play in the MCU? Drop a comment below, and if you like this content, please subscribe and click that notification bell for whenever we have a new video go up. But with that, see you next time.